There comes a moment when you realize something profoundly simple yet life-changing. A man does not invest more because you ask. He invests more because your presence awakens something inside him. And I want you to feel this truth slowly settling into your chest, like a quiet understanding you've always known but never dared to articulate. Because the kind of feminine behavior that inspires commitment isn't loud, strategic, or manipulative. It is a return to your natural center. Take a breath. Let the outside world soften for a moment. There is a boundary within you, subtle but powerful, that shifts the dynamic without a single word spoken. It is the moment when you stop chasing, adjusting, proving, when you step back into yourself. As Carl Jung said, what we withdraw our energy from loses its power over us. And you will notice how true this is in love. Because when your energy returns to you, when your attention is no longer scattered, when you are not hanging on to every message or every silence, a man feels this space. Not as distance, but as magnetism. He senses that he is no longer the center of your emotional universe, and this quietly challenges him to rise if he wants to stay close. You're not demanding anything. You're not testing him. You're simply living from a place where your value is not given away carelessly. And that is exactly what awakens his instinct to invest more deeply. Men are moved not by pressure, but by clarity, your clarity. In Jung's view, the soul responds to what is authentic, not what is forced. And when you begin to embody the kind of femininity that is rooted in self-respect rather than fear, you become a mirror he cannot ignore. He sees his own inconsistency, his own effort, his own longing. Your presence makes him aware of the gap between who he is and the man he wants to be for you. And maybe you've never noticed it, but the moment you stop trying to make something happen, the energy changes. He leans in. He considers you more carefully. Your silence becomes meaningful. Your time becomes precious. Your heart becomes something he must protect, not something he casually accesses. This is where commitment begins, not through pressure, but through the awakening of his deeper masculine instinct to step forward. There is a quiet turning point in every woman's life, though she rarely notices it in the moment it happens. A shift so subtle it feels like an exhale, yet so powerful it alters the entire direction of a relationship. It's the moment you stop trying to impress a man, and instead begin to impress yourself. The moment you no longer shape your softness to fit his uncertainty, but allow your natural rhythm to return to you. And he feels it instantly. Men sense emotional changes long before they understand them. When you stop overgiving, over-explaining, over-efforting, something in the dynamic straightens. It's as if the universe gently turns your face back toward your own life, your own desires, your own path. And in that simple return, your value becomes visible again, not only to him, but to you. As Carl Jung said, what you withdraw from, withdraws from you. And what you invest in, invests back. When your energy no longer rushes toward him out of fear, fear of losing him, fear of being forgotten, he instinctively steps forward to fill the space. Not because you demanded it, but because masculine energy naturally rises when feminine energy stops collapsing around it. You are not punishing him. You are not playing games. You are simply living from a place where your heart is no longer a bargain. And this changes everything. The texts come faster. His tone becomes more present. He asks more questions. He notices small details he previously overlooked. Something inside him awakens because your quiet shift reminds him that connection is not guaranteed. It must be nurtured. He begins to see you not as someone who waits for him, but as someone he must show up for. A woman with her own inner world, her own pulse, her own mystery. Jung believed that the feminine draws out the masculine through depth, not demand. When you return to your inner life, you become that depth. And he feels it in the way your presence no longer grasps, in the way your silence no longer fears, in the way your smile no longer tries to convince. That is when investment begins, not because you asked, but because your energy finally tells the truth. I choose you, but I do not need you to choose me for my life to continue beautifully. This is the energy that inspires devotion without pressure. There is a moment in every woman's journey when she discovers that true influence does not come from effort, persuasion, or proving herself. It comes from receiving. And I want you to really feel these words, because this is the part of feminine energy most women were never taught. The part that awakens a man's desire to invest without you having to ask. Receiving is not passive. It is powerful. It is the quiet confidence of a woman who knows she deserves to be met, not chased after someone who keeps slipping away. Jung wrote that the feminine principle draws in by simply being. It does not need to push. And when you stop pushing, something almost magical happens. He begins to approach with a different intention. He stops assuming you'll always be there. He starts realizing that your openness is a privilege, not a given. You see, when you shift from "how can I keep him interested" to "how does his effort make me feel," the entire emotional landscape changes. You are no longer the one trying to maintain the connection. Instead, you become the one evaluating it. And men feel this. They feel it in the way you listen without trying to fix everything, in how you give space instead of rushing to fill silence, in how you allow him to act, allow him to show what he's capable of. This is where true commitment begins. Not when you chase effort, but when you respond to it. A woman grounded in her receiving energy is not aloof. She is present, but not pursuing. She smiles with warmth, not need. She gives with sincerity, not expectation. And this subtle shift lights something inside him, something ancient and instinctual. Because when you receive gracefully his attention, his plans, his initiative, you mirror back to him the man he wants to be. He feels stronger, more purposeful, more connected, and he will naturally invest more because he wants to feel this version of himself in your presence. As Jung said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Your stillness transforms him. Your openness anchors him. Your receptivity inspires him. You are not winning him over. You are awakening the part of him that wants to win you. There comes a quiet moment when a woman realizes she has spent too much time trying to be enough for someone who never truly saw her. And in that realization, something ancient awakens inside her. A return, a remembering, a soft but unshakable truth. When you choose yourself, a man finally sees your worth with new eyes. This shift doesn't happen through anger or dramatic exits. It happens the moment you stop abandoning your own needs to keep his interest alive. As Carl Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But the moment you do, everything in your relationships changes. Because when you choose yourself, your rest, your peace, your desires, your energy transforms. You move differently. You speak differently. You no longer chase clarity. You expect it. You no longer cling to potential. You look at reality. And this groundedness has a magnetic pull that no strategy can imitate. Men feel it instantly. They feel it in how you stop overfunctioning, in how you no longer rescue their inconsistency, in how your silence becomes a boundary rather than a plea. Suddenly he sees that you are not a woman who fears losing him. You are a woman who fears losing herself. And that changes his entire approach. He starts showing up more consistently, not because you demanded it, but because your self-respect creates a new emotional standard. Your energy quietly communicates, I am willing to walk away from anything that asks me to abandon who I am. And this is the moment when he begins to invest, not out of pressure, but out of admiration. You become a woman he must earn, not a woman he can casually keep in his orbit. Jung believed that when we integrate our inner truth, the outer world rearranges accordingly. And that is what happens here. Your inner alignment becomes his external motivation. Your self-prioritization becomes the compass by which he measures his own effort. He begins to act with intention. He listens more carefully. He notices what matters to you. He stops taking shortcuts in love. Because a man invests where he feels he could lose something extraordinary. And nothing is more extraordinary than a woman who finally comes home to herself. There is a certain kind of woman who quietly transforms the way a man behaves, not through demands, not through persuasion, but through the mystery of her inner world. And I want you to feel this truth settle into your soul, because this is where devotion begins, not in your actions toward him, but in the relationship you build within yourself. Men invest in what they cannot fully predict. They pursue what they cannot instantly decode. They commit to what makes them feel alive. And this mystery has nothing to do with playing games. It is the natural aura of a woman who lives from depth rather than desperation. As Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And when you embody this, when your life is rich from the inside out, your energy becomes something he leans into, not something he takes for granted. A woman with an inner world does not wait for a man to create meaning in her life. She already carries meaning within her. She has passions that breathe through her days, dreams that guide her nights, a quiet confidence that makes her presence feel like a place rather than a request. And he senses it. He senses it when you speak with calm instead of urgency. He senses it when your eyes show warmth but not need. He senses it when your absence weighs more than any effort you used to give. This is not aloofness. It is emotional maturity. This is not distance. It is self-possession. Jung believed that what is alive in our unconscious radiates outward and shapes our reality. And the moment you inhabit your own life more fully, a man feels a pull he cannot explain. He feels compelled to understand you, to approach with intention, to discover the parts of you that are not immediately visible. Because suddenly, loving you is not a passive experience. It requires presence, effort, reflection. A woman with inner substance does not inspire superficial affection. She inspires investment. He begins to think before he speaks. He considers how his actions might affect you. He shows up on time, with presence, with purpose. Not because you ask, but because your depth makes anything less feel inadequate. And here is the quiet truth every woman eventually learns. A man invests more when he feels there is something real to lose and something extraordinary to gain. By honoring your inner world, you become both. There is a kind of silence that does not push a man away. It pulls him toward you with a force he cannot explain. Not the silence of punishment, not the silence of fear, but the silence of a woman who no longer hides behind noise, overgiving, or constant availability. This silence is powerful because it is rooted in presence, not absence, in self-respect, not withdrawal. And when a woman steps into this kind of quiet, a man feels something shift inside him. It's as if the emotional ground beneath him rearranges, making him suddenly aware of what he once took for granted. As Carl Jung said, in all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. Your silence becomes that secret order. It brings clarity to the emotional chaos he created without even realizing it. He notices the difference immediately, not because you disappear, but because you have stopped over-explaining your worth. Stopped filling the space he consistently left empty. Stopped giving reassurance he never earned. Your quiet becomes a mirror, and for the first time, he sees himself clearly in it. Men feel the impact of a woman's silence more deeply than her words. Because your silence does not argue. It does not chase. It does not negotiate. It simply reveals. It shows him that your heart is no longer the open door he walked through carelessly. It shows him that access to you now requires awareness, consistency, intention. It shows him that the old dynamic has expired and a new emotional contract has formed, one where you are no longer carrying the relationship alone. Jung believed that the unconscious speaks through symbols, gestures, and absence more powerfully than through language. And your silence becomes that symbol, a message not spoken, yet deeply understood. If you want to keep me, You must meet me. And this is when investment begins, not out of fear, but out of awakening. He reaches out more thoughtfully. He listens more intently. He feels the weight of your presence because your absence was no longer filled with attempts to convince him. A man grows when he realizes a woman will no longer shrink to keep him comfortable. Your silence teaches him that. Gently, elegantly, unmistakably. And this is the silence that makes him show up. Not because you demanded more, but because he finally understood what he stands to lose. There is a turning point in every connection, though it rarely arrives with noise. It comes softly, like a shift in the air, when a woman stops offering emotional availability as if it were a duty and begins offering it only where there is reciprocity. And I want you to feel this moment, because it is one of the most powerful energies a woman can embody. When you detach from the silent expectation that you must constantly be there, ready to soothe, ready to listen, ready to make space, you unintentionally awaken something profound in a man. Suddenly, your attention is no longer something he can assume. It becomes something he must earn. This is where investment rises almost automatically. You're not cold. You're not punishing him. You're simply no longer stretching your heart to meet someone who hasn't moved. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Your shift in availability forces him to face what he has unconsciously relied on. Your warmth, your patience, your emotional labor. Now, he feels the absence of what he once consumed without gratitude. And this absence is not a void. It is a boundary, a quiet, sacred line that says, I will no longer give what is not being returned. Men react deeply to this, because masculine desire awakens in pursuit, not in comfort. And when your emotional presence is no longer guaranteed, he must confront the truth. Connection with you is not maintained by intention alone. It requires action. You become a woman he must actively choose, not a woman who waits. He starts noticing the small things he ignored before. The delay in your replies, the softness in your tone that isn't overextending, the way your life continues beautifully without his validation. This is not indifference. This is alignment. This is you refusing to abandon yourself for the sake of holding on. Jung wrote that a person grows when confronted with the tension of opposites. And your new stance forces him to grow, to rise to your level, to meet your presence, to match your emotional maturity. When you are no longer emotionally available on demand, he must decide. Step forward with intention, or step aside. And a man who values you will always step forward, because he feels, perhaps for the first time, that access to your heart is no longer an entitlement, but a treasure he must nurture. There is a kind of emotional detachment that does not come from indifference, but from inner evolution. A detachment that whispers rather than shouts, yet shifts an entire bond. It is the moment when your heart becomes calm, not because you no longer care, but because you finally understand your own worth. And a man feels this immediately. It is subtle, but unmistakable. He feels it when you stop responding from anxiety and start responding from clarity. He feels it when you no longer rush to secure the connection. He feels it when your love is no longer wrapped in fear. This detachment is not about pulling away. It is about returning to yourself. As Carl Jung said, the woman within must become conscious. And when she does, everything around her starts to rearrange. Suddenly your energy is no longer a river constantly flowing toward him. It becomes a lake, still, deep, reflective. And a man approaching a lake moves differently, slower, more attentive, more intentional. He senses a shift in the emotional gravity. Your world does not revolve around him anymore. Your happiness is not determined by his next message. Your self-esteem is not tied to his validation. And this awakening pulls him closer. Because men are inspired by women who are connected to themselves. When your inner world becomes your priority, he feels a quiet invitation to rise. Not because you asked, not because you punished, but because the gap between who he is and who you are becoming can no longer be ignored. This is the kind of feminine detachment that awakens pursuit, not from scarcity, but from admiration. He begins to take more initiative. He chooses his words more carefully. He stops playing safe and starts showing up with intention. Why? Because your energy is no longer chasing him. It is no longer apologizing for wanting more. It is no longer shrinking so he feels comfortable. Your energy is now rooted, grounded, centered. And a centered woman is irresistible, not because she tries, but because she is. She embodies the soft strength Jung described as the integration of one's true nature. This is when he starts investing more. Not because you manipulated him, not because you withheld affection, but because you finally aligned with your own truth. And he feels compelled to meet you there. There is a precise moment, quiet, almost invisible, when a woman stops fearing loss. Not because she has stopped caring, but because she finally trusts herself more than she trusts someone's inconsistency. And when this moment arrives, her entire presence changes. A man feels it before he understands it. He feels it in the pause between your responses. He feels it in the newfound steadiness in your voice. He feels it when you no longer accept emotional crumbs with a grateful heart. This shift is not cold, not distant. It is liberated. As Carl Jung said, what you resist persists, but what you embrace transforms. And you have embraced something essential. The truth that you can lose him and still keep yourself. This is the moment that wakes a man up. Because the version of you who once feared losing him is gone. The woman before him now is whole, complete, rooted in her own existence. Your energy becomes different. You don't chase reassurance anymore. You don't panic when he pulls back. You don't crumble when he becomes inconsistent. Instead, you observe. You breathe. You let his behavior reveal his intentions. This quiet confidence destabilizes him, not in a cruel way, but in a way that forces him to evaluate himself honestly. He realizes that your world continues without his constant presence. He sees that your joy, your peace, your purpose no longer orbit around him. And that is when he begins to take you seriously. A man invests more when he realizes your life will be beautiful, with or without him. He steps forward because he feels the loss before it happens. He invests because he sees you no longer negotiating with your worth. He becomes intentional because he senses you are walking on a path he wants to be part of, not one he needs to rescue. Jung taught that the shadow only reveals itself when we face truth without fear. Your lack of fear becomes his mirror. He sees his inconsistencies. He sees his lack of effort. He sees the gap between the love he wants to give and the love he has actually shown. And this realization becomes a catalyst. A man grows not when a woman clings, but when she calmly releases the illusion that she must hold everything together. When you are no longer afraid to lose him, he finally understands what he stands to lose. There comes a moment, quiet, sacred, when the entire dynamic shifts. Not because you asked for more, not because you fought for clarity, but because you finally stepped into the woman you were always meant to become. And this is the moment when a man feels something undeniable inside himself. He doesn't want to lose you, and he doesn't want to risk living without you. This happens when your energy settles into a deeper truth. You no longer reach for him. You no longer argue for what should be obvious. You no longer try to convince him of your value. Instead, you embody it. Softly, unshakably, completely. As Carl Jung said, the greatest influence is not through force, but through the unfolding of one's own being. Your essence, your clarity, your boundaries, becomes the catalyst that wakes him up more deeply than any words ever could. He begins to see the difference between a woman who needs him and a woman who chooses him. And the second is infinitely more powerful, because choosing is an act of freedom. And he can feel that your choice is no longer guaranteed. Your presence now carries a quiet gravity, a knowing, a maturity, a softness that is not naive but intentional. You give warmly, but not endlessly. You receive gracefully, but not blindly. You love deeply, but not at the expense of yourself. This is the energy that inspires commitment without pressure. A woman who is whole on her own, yet open to walking with someone who matches her depth. He invests because he finally understands the value of your heart. He shows up because he feels your emotional world is no longer accessible by default. He chooses you because your alignment makes him want to become the man who deserves a place in your life. Jung believed that love is a path of individuation. Two people becoming more themselves, not less. And that is what you ignite within him. Not fear, not obligation, but transformation. Because you stopped shrinking. Because you stopped chasing. Because you stopped betraying yourself in the name of connection. And in doing so, you became the kind of woman a man doesn't want to lose. The kind who expands his soul simply by being who she truly is. So if you felt every part of this journey, if something awakened, softened, or aligned inside you, know this: you are not hard to love. You simply needed to remember your own depth, so that the right man could rise to meet it.